Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Shakundi, aka DJ Kun Love, and I'm coming to you live from Urbvote over here in the heart of the Central District. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about clearing up myths around voting with a felony in Washington State. So I just wanted to answer some common questions that I get while I'm out in the streets talking with people in the barbershops and salons and at the club back when, we had the clubs going. So let me get right into it. First of all, the first question that a lot of people ask is, can individuals convicted of a felony vote in Washington State? And the answer is yes, unemphatically yes. If you were convicted of a felony in the state of Washington as an adult, your right to vote is automatically restored as soon as you are no longer under the authority of the Department of Corrections. Okay, this means once you have completed any required incarceration and or the DOC community custody, halfway house, your right to vote has been restored. Okay, if you were convicted of a felony in another state, though, you might have to check and make sure that your voting rights have been restored. But in Washington State, once you are no longer under the custody or incarceration of the DOC, your right to vote is restored. Okay, so there's a lot of people running around wondering, hey, I'm a felon. I know I can't vote. The answer to that is you are wrong. You can vote. Okay, so tell a friend. Okay, so this is also a huge misconception with a lot of people I know. I was just out and about last weekend talking to people. In fact, I was at Seward Park and a brother told me, he said, "No, I can't vote because I still have a legal obligation, a financial obligation." So let's get this straight right now. The right to vote is restored even if you still owe court fines. Let me repeat that. Your right to vote is restored even if you still owe court fines, restitution, or other legal financial obligations, LFOs, okay? A legal financial obligation. So again, even if you still owe restitution, even if you still owe court fines, you can still vote. Okay, so be clear. So, you might have had that case where, or somebody might have had a case where, they have a large amount of restitution that might take years to pay off. That does not inhibit you from voting. Okay, you do not need to pay off your LFOs to vote. You are still legally obligated, however, to pay off your legally financial obligations and to comply with the payment schedule. So if you've made a payment plan over the years and you say, okay, I'm going to pay this amount per month for X amount of time, you still need to do that. But that does not stop you from voting in the election or voting in your community. Okay, so you do not lose your right to vote for not paying your fines. Okay, be clear. But you still are legally obligated to pay those fines. Now, be clear, if you revoke on those fines and so you do not pay them, the court can issue an order, right? So off top, you do in fact get your right to vote back once you are no longer incarcerated or under the custody of the state. Even if you owe a large amount of money, court fines, or other legal financial obligations, you can still vote. However, if you do not pay those obligations, a judge and the court can issue an order down the road because you haven't paid to revoke your right to vote. Okay, so your right to vote has automatically been restored. But again, if you don't pay those bills, they can take that right to vote away while you still have those obligations. Okay, so here's a question. I mean, most people would know, but again, I've run into people, they say, man, I don't know if I have a warrant or not. I don't know if I have obligations or not. How do you find out if you are off DOC community custody? The best way to find out if you are on community custody is to call the DOC. So you can call them, the Department of Corrections, at 1-800-430-9674 Monday through Friday. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So, I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of reduced schedules with the coronavirus situation and COVID-19. However, call that number, 1-800-430-9674. But to find out if you were no longer or on or off community custody. Okay, so that's pretty important. So folks have always said, well, I think I'm off. Is there a document? Is there a document or a place I need to check to confirm that my right to vote is restored? All right, is there a place that we can check on that? No. There's no longer any documentation in the state of Washington confirming your restoration of the right to vote. In the past, the Department of Corrections did do this, but there is no list now. Okay, that's why it's important to just know that once you are in fact out of custody, you are no longer in community custody and no longer incarcerated, even though you still may owe fines or restitution, your right is automatically restored. Okay, there's not going to be any document, and you don't have to show any documentation, right? So, if somebody asks you, or, it's rare in this state that somebody would challenge your right to vote. However, if somebody did and say, hey, well, do you have anything that proves that you're off community custody, that you're obviously no longer incarcerated? There is no document that says that, but you heard it from here right now, that you are in fact do have the right to vote. Okay? So that's pretty important. Now, here's a big kicker, right? You do need to register to vote. Okay, so say, I've ran into a couple of people over the last year where they've said, you know what, I voted for Obama in 2008. So maybe they voted for Obama. Something happened along the way, and for whatever reason, you were incarcerated, you got on community custody, you have now come home, you've paid off all your fines or not, and you say, well, I voted for Obama, I should be good, right? I can vote. Thanks, Con. Thanks for telling me I can vote. I'm already in the system because I voted for Obama. You still need to register to vote, okay? You need to re-register. Once you became a ward of the state, or you were entered into the system and got that felony, your right to vote was revoked. Your right to vote was revoked. But again, like I just said, now that you came home, and your voting rights are automatically restored. Automatically restored. Okay? They're restored, but you still have to register to vote. Okay? So if you need to register to vote, you can click the link below here. Or you can give me a call. We'll come register you to vote in person. But or go to urbvote.org. All right. So there's lots of ways to register to vote. Obviously, Washington State has you can register to vote in person. You can register to vote online, and you can register to vote. We can mail in your form. There's lots of ways for you to register to vote, but the key thing is that you do, in fact, need to re-register to vote. Okay, so what documents do you need to register to vote? So in the state of Washington, you really just need a valid Washington State ID, and we can get you registered to vote. If you don't have that, if you have a valid Social Security number, or you can at least provide the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, then we can register you to vote. Okay, but you do need to have either a valid Washington State driver's license or ID, or the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, so we can get you a registration. Here's another big misnomer, right? Hey, I don't really want everybody to know my business right now, but I don't really have an address. I don't have a stable address right now. What you do need, so you do not need a home or a stable address to vote. However, you will be required to provide 2 addresses, right? This could be a residential address. It could be the address of a shelter, a park, a motorhome, an intersection, someplace that is an identifiable location. Okay, I remember a couple years ago when this came out, people were really upset because they felt like, a lot of homeless people would be voting as if they want to suppress that vote. That's a problem. However, at the end of the day, we just need your location so we can know what precinct you will be in, right? So if you want to put down, Pratt Park in the CD, for example, that's your location, and that way it lets us know what precinct, what area you vote in. So that means obviously you're not in Yakima, right? You're not in Vancouver. So we need to know a location where you are around, right? So again, that could be a park, a shelter, a motorhome, an intersection, or some other identifiable place. So we know that that's where we can assign you a precinct for you to vote in, right? The other address that you'll need is a mailing address for you to receive your mail at. So again, that could be a P.O. box. It could be the address of a friend or a relative. It could be the shelter. It could be, the post office. It could be a general delivery at a local post office. So again, these don't have to be your particular address. You don't need your own home or apartment. It's just yours. You can get your ballot wherever you want it to come to. We just need to know an identifiable place so we can put you in a precinct, right? And so that obviously comes down to really with local elections and very local. So are you going to be are you voting for Seattle schools? Are you voting for Renton schools? Tukwila schools, right? These are all things. Are you voting in the city of Seattle for city council and the mayor of Seattle? Are you voting for King County issues versus Pierce County issues? So it's very important to know your address where, in an identifiable place where you're living at so we can get you that ballot, okay? So again, you do not need a stable home, but you do need an address to receive your ballot at. So here's one that I talked to a person that said, well, hey, you know what? If I've got my voting rights back, do I still need to get a certificate of discharge? Right? And a certificate of discharge means that basically you have satisfied all of your obligations to the court, and that you can basically be able to move on from that, right? So you do need to, if you're trying to vacate your conviction, or you have other things that you're working on related to your felony, then of course you need to get your certificate of discharge. You do not need to get a certificate of discharge to vote. All right. So here's the last thing I'm going to leave you with. So you're home now. You've got your right to vote restored. You still may or may not be paying off your obligations to the court. Things are going great. And the question now is, can I lose the right to vote after it's been restored? And yes, the answer to that question is yes. If you are in fact convicted of another felony, you will lose the right to vote again. Right? And this process will start all over again. Well, you'll need to have a new term of incarceration or community custody. And again, once you come home, you will need to re-register. When you come home, obviously your rights to vote will be automatically restored like they were initially. And you will have to go through that process again. But you can, in fact, lose your right to vote and regain it, and lose it and regain it. I hope that's not the case. Obviously, we hope that's not the case for everybody. However, it could happen. So, those are some tips that I wanted to just offer. Please let people know. I think, it's really a given almost at this point. And it's a shame that most of us, have somebody that's been impacted by the criminal justice system. This system was not built for us. It was built to suppress people of color. And there's a lot of institutional racism that's led to that. So what we want to do is make sure that we can overcome these things and have the right information. And knowing that your right to vote has been automatically restored in the state of Washington is key. So if you take two things away from this right now, is that one, once you come home or your relative has come home, they automatically, day one, as soon as they hit the block, they have the right to vote and it has been restored. Even if they have obligations, outstanding obligations to the court, that does not stop them or preclude them from voting. You still need to pay those fines or whatever that restitution is, but you can vote. So please spread the right information moving forward. Somebody comes home, they need to re-register to vote, and then they automatically have the right to vote. Okay? So there you go. That's some new good information to have, and let your people know. Once again, this is Shakundi Salisbury, aka DJ Kun Love, and I'm representing Urbvote, the Urban Vote Project here in Seattle, Washington. So long.